Hi, it's Richa from Sewmate. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to be showing you how to draft a basic pattern for short pants. This can also be called a short pants block pattern. So this will allow you to make so many different kinds of short pants without you having to start from scratch every time you think of making a short pant. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do, and make sure to turn on your notification bell so that each time I upload new videos you get notified. You will need a basic pants block pattern to do this. I've got a tutorial on this channel on how you can make one. I'll leave a link in the description below and a link above. Now, starting with the front pant, trace around the block, making sure to mark all your notches and the dart up to the knee level since this is a short pattern. Lift your block, draw in your dart, your hip line and your knee line, making sure to extend both ways like I'm doing here. Now square in your grain line up to the knee line like I'm doing here, extending the knee line a little further. Now square a line down from the hip line all the way down to the knee line like I'm doing here. Make sure this line is squared. Square another line down from the crotch point all the way to the knee line like I'm doing here, and make sure it's squared. Now I've got a seam allowance of 1 centimeter at the crotch curve, so I'm going down 1 centimeter and squaring with the grain line, drawing in my crotch line across the whole pattern like I'm doing here. Now coming to the crotch line, we're going to go down 10 centimeters along the grain line and put a mark. So this is the length that I want for my short pants. You can choose anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters. Now square across using this point along the whole pattern like I'm doing here. So we're coming in at the hemline here, 1.5 centimeters from both ends. 1.5 and connect it back to the hip line like I'm doing. 1.5 along the inseam, connect it back to the crotch point like I'm doing here. So these parts are not included in our pattern anymore. Now I'm adding a hem allowance of 3 centimeters. Now fold back along the hemline like I'm doing here and cut around your pattern. Open your pattern and finish off cutting your pattern like I'm doing here. Now adding notches to the pattern. So we're still going to use this original grain line, and labeling the pattern. Basic front short block pattern, and I put my initial. Now our front pattern's finished. Now we're moving on to the back. Starting with the basic pant block pattern, trace around your block, making sure to mark all your notches and the dart up to the knee level like we did with the front, since these are short pants. Lift the block, draw in your dart, draw in your hip line, draw in your knee line, extending both ways like I'm doing here. Square in your grain line up to the knee level. Now we've got this seam allowance again at the crotch seam 1 centimeter, so going 1 centimeter down and squaring using the grain line all the way across the pattern for our crotch line. Now we're going to square a line down to the knee level from the hip line. Make sure it's squared, and doing the same again at the crotch point here down to the knee line. Square this line as well. Coming to the crotch line along the grain line, we're going 10 centimeters down, which is the length that I want for my short pants. You can choose 5 to 10 centimeters depending on your preference. Now square across both ends like I'm doing here. Coming in 1.5 centimeters from both ends. 1.5 and connecting back to the hip line. Make sure you blend it nicely. Same applies to the inseam, 1.5 centimeters and connecting it back to the crotch point. So these parts are no longer included in our pattern. Now adding my hem allowance 3 centimeters like we did with the front pattern. Fold your pattern back along the hemline like I'm doing here, so that we get a nice shaping for our hem allowance there, and cut around the pattern. Open your pattern and finish off cutting the rest of the pattern like I'm doing here. Next, adding notches to our pattern. Using the same grain line as well, like we have on the main pants pattern. And labeling the pattern, basic back short pants block pattern, and I put my initial. So the back short pants block pattern is finished as well, and we finished drafting both our front and back patterns. Now you can transfer your pattern to Octag or cardboard so that you can be able to use it for longer. Thank you.